everyone, I hope you're all doing well and taking care, and welcome to this brand new Doctor Who video on the channel. So tonight it is obviously my review of the latest episode of Doctor Who Flux, Doctor Who Season 13, which is War of the Sontarans. So I have just finished watching the episode. As with last week's review, I haven't been on social media or anything like that, so I've got no idea what anybody thought of this episode. But my first impression is I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a very enjoyable episode of Doctor Who, which is always a good thing. You always want to go in and enjoy an episode of Doctor Who. I'm not sure yet how much I enjoyed it. We'll talk about that near the end of the review. But yeah, I'm a bit conflicted how much I actually enjoyed this episode. But there's no doubt I did enjoy it, and it was at least a very good episode of Doctor Who. I'm just not sure yet how much I enjoyed it compared to other episodes. But we'll all get that near the end of the review. So let's start by talking about the characters. So once again, we had the 13th Doctor, who again, as with last week, I very much enjoyed in this episode. Again, I said this last week, but it does feel like the writers, well, Chris Chibnall is going down a darker route with Jodie Whittaker this season. Like, don't get me wrong, her Doctor still has humorous moments. It just doesn't feel as strong as it was with the humour in Series 11 and Series 12. And that will obviously be controversial. Some people will like that, some people won't. Personally, I think it's a good decision to make her Doctor more serious, and so far it's working particularly well, especially when the scenes where she's talking to the Sontarans, those scenes were really brilliant. I loved how serious Jodie's Doctor was, how she kind of led the situation until the Sergeant kind of took over, and then you could see the gutted face on the Doctor as she was devastated as she knew what was coming with the soldiers. But yeah, I really liked Jodie's Doctor this episode once again. We also as well had Dan, who spent a lot of this episode by himself, which I thought was a good idea. It's good to split the companions up and give them lots of screen time, so that's always a good thing. We got to meet Dan's parents, who I very much enjoyed in this story. I found them very funny characters. I hope we see more of them as the series progresses. I always like that. I always like when the show explores the family dynamics of the companions, so I'm glad that Chris Chibnall is continuing that route this series. But yeah, I did enjoy Dan. There was lots of humorous moments. I really laughed out loud at a lot of his jokes this episode. I am starting to think though, is there something going on with Dan? Because Dan was obviously very brave in this episode, going up against the Sontarans by himself. And maybe that is just his personality. We know he's a nice guy. Maybe that is just the way he is. But I'm starting to think, with this his being only his second episode in this series, and he's already very brave going up to the Sontarans by himself, I'm starting to think, is there maybe something going on with Dan? Is there maybe something not meeting the eye here? Is he maybe secretly a Time Lord? That's been a theory that's going around, and maybe that explains his bravery, because deep down he isn't a human. I'm probably wrong. It's probably just part of his personality, and he's a really nice, brave guy, but I'm just getting the impression by how brave Dan was in this episode, it does feel maybe a bit unbelievable for only Dan's second episode, especially when he's by himself as well, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. We also had Yaz, as with Dan, who was separated a lot for this episode with this whole temple thing. Not really sure what's going on, that kind of storyline. I'll have to rewatch it. That did confuse me a bit, but I am interested to see where it goes next week. And obviously the cliffhanger as well was really interesting, with Yaz being apparently killed off, which will obviously not happen as she was in the Next Time trailer. But yeah, I'm interested to see where that goes. And I also thought Yaz was a very brave companion this week. You can really see how confident she has grown. Even if it has happened off screen, she is now a much more confident companion. You can just tell in the scenes by herself, she really led those situations. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes next week. We also as well had Vinder, who popped up in this episode. I can't really say that much on Vinder yet, just because we don't really know anything about him. All we know is that he was, on this ship, and he was looking after the universe before the Flux took over. So, I mean, Vinder comes across as a nice guy. It's just at this moment of time, it's really hard to tell who he is. So yeah, I haven't got much to say on Vinder, but it was still nice to see him, and I'm interested to see who he actually is. He probably is part of the Division, or he's a Time Lord or something like that, but who knows at this point in time. And the final characters we have to speak about in terms of the human characters was the Sergeant, who I really liked the end scene where he blew up the Sontarans. That gave me a really strong Alien in London World War III vibe when, it was the Christmas Invasion where, what was her name? Harriet Jones blew up the Cigarak ship. That gave me a really similar kind of feel. The Doctor was obviously devastated when he blew up all the ships, so yeah, I really did like that ending with the Sergeant. And we also as well had Mary Seacole, who I thought was a really good guest companion for the 13th Doctor, Jodie Whittaker, to go along with. I found she was a very likeable character. It was interesting getting to learn a bit about Mary, how she was a nurse, how she had a hotel, because I didn't really know anything about Mary before this episode, and I always enjoy that that educational aspect that we've had in Doctor Who before, especially in this era with episodes like Rosa and Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror. So yeah, I enjoyed Mary in this episode, and she was a really good guest companion for Jodie Whittaker's Doctor. Obviously, though, now got to talk about the Sontarans because they were the main attraction, the main point of this story. And I really did enjoy the Sontarans in this story, particularly the new design. As I said before, I like the design of Sontarans from 2008. Don't get me wrong, it's still a good design. It's just particularly with the Crimean War, these more warrior design with the helmets and the suits and the newer faces, they did work much better in the Crimean War setting, in my opinion. So it's a good design to have for this story. I really liked the new design of the faces. There was kind of two designs. There was the one that was played by Darren Starkey, which their Sontarans looked more like the 2008 Sontarans, which I liked. It was a nice throwback. And there was also the other design, which looked more like the Sontarans from the Time Warrior. They were both new designs, but I did see a difference in some different Sontarans and the voices as well throughout the story. But yeah, I thought the Sontarans were really good in this story. It was great to see them back. My only complaint would be I wish we saw a bit more of them, because I don't know if it's just me, but it just felt like the Sontarans could have been a bit more in this story. I'm not really sure why I feel like that. It just doesn't feel like they were on screen as much as I would have liked them to have been on screen. I would have liked to have seen a bit more of them. But the scale of this story was fantastic. The whole Earth invasion of current Earth, and then there was the Earth invasion going on against the Crimean soldiers, the British soldiers, which is a great scene. The scene between the soldiers and the Sontarans looked great. It was a great battle. And yeah, so I did overall enjoy the Sontarans in the story. I just wish maybe we'd seen a little bit more of them. But maybe that'll change on rewatch, and maybe that's just me. And obviously, along with the Sontaran stuff, we obviously had as well the stuff going on with the Swarm. And I have to say, I really like the Swarm as a villain. I really like how, I guess camp, you could call it that. He is a bit of a camp villain, but I think that works for a show like Doctor Who. I think the scenes between him and Yaz worked well. And yeah, it's definitely coming across as a creepy villain. We still don't know much about him. We know he has abilities. For example, when Vinder was shooting at him, he was able to move around the room. So we know he's got special abilities. They're probably responsible for the Flux. But apart from that, we really don't know what's going on with that temple. Something to do with time. I really need to rewatch those scenes because I was really confused what was going on. But it'll be interesting to see what happens next week, where the Doctor and Swarm will finally, they've had a bit of a meeting now, but it sounds like next week we're getting like the Cybermen back, which is absolutely fantastic. I hope they're a main part of the episode, because Cybermen are my favourite Doctor Who villains. So I hope Chris Chibnall does them justice last week. But yeah, I'm very looking forward to seeing where the whole Swarm storyline goes next week, and hopefully learning more about them and seeing how the whole Yaz cliffhanger is going to be resolved. I thought it could have been a bit of a stronger cliffhanger, because in the Next Time trailer we saw Yaz, so we know that Yaz isn't going to die in this episode. But still, I guess when you have 5 cliffhangers needed for one season, you are going to get cliffhangers where they do feel a bit like they're going to be solved very easily in the next episode. But overall, my overall opinions of this episode is I did enjoy it. I would say I enjoyed it just as much as last week. In terms of other Sontaran stories, I don't think I enjoyed it as much as the 2008 Sontaran two-parter with David Tennant and those version of the Sontarans. I thought that was a stronger two-parter, but still, I really liked the scale of this episode, the whole Earth invasion, and yeah, it was good to see Sontarans back, and I do hope they come back in the near future. And yeah, if I had to give this episode a rating, I would probably give it an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. It's just, as I said, I don't know why, but it just feels like we could have seen a bit more of the Sontarans on screen, a bit more of the newer Sontarans, but I do hope they come back in the near future. But there we go, that is my review of Doctor Who War of the Sontarans. What did you think? Did you enjoy this episode? Did you feel like a bit like me and did enjoy it, but you feel like maybe could have been a bit more Sontarans in the episode? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, if you have enjoyed this video, please do subscribe. I do weekly reviews, I do videos throughout the week on the channel as well, especially with Series 13 growing at the moment. So yeah, any new subscribers would really be appreciated. But yeah guys, thanks for watching, take care, and I will see you all next time. Have a good week. Bye for now.